So the Donald Trump clown show continues, and today his own people are turning against him because the clown show is so bad. Look at this. This is Trump tweeting out, "My next truth will be one of the most important and impactful I have ever issued. Enjoy." What could this possible truth be? Everything he does is the most important, right? Biggest ever. Well, this actually could be the biggest ever, to be fair to Trump. This may be the biggest ever gift or bribe, however you want to state this thing, to the President of the United States from a foreign nation. It says here, Trump administration will accept a luxury jet from Qatar to use as Air Force One. Again, this is coming from a foreign nation to the president. What they're doing is they're giving it to his library. So then he'll use it as President Air Force One, and then he'll use it, looks like, for personal use after being president. How could you call this anything other than corrupt is beyond me, but I was saying even his own people are calling him out on it. It says here, Trump is said to be getting a Qatari 747 for Air Force One and post-presidency travel. This is Laura Loomer, one of Trump's people. She says here, "How are we supposed to ever see the U.S. under the Trump administration designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization if the U.S. is now going to accept a $400 million jet from Qatar to fly the U.S. president and his staff around?" I mean, literally, she's even calling it out. She even did a couple tweets. This was just a couple hours ago. "Not only will the president of the United States be flying around on a $400 million jet paid for by Qatar, but don't forget, our own U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi was once a registered foreign lobbyist on behalf of Qatar." She was paid $115,000 a month. And I'll even go further than that and show you a little bit more about Pam Bondi's connections and sort of what her financial interests are with this stuff. This is actually on the U.S. Senate Judiciary website. You can easily find it. Back in January, they put out this thing. It says Pam Bondi's extensive lobbying for wealthy special interests and foreign government poses serious conflict of interest. Of course it does. The same way that Qatar giving a $400 million jet to Trump is a massive conflict of interest. I mean, anyone can point that out. Even Laura Loomer, who's, a Trumper, is pointing that out. But I'm also pointing out the Bondi stuff. Bondi represented private prisons in the past, so she has connections with that. And you guys can make the connection, right? So arrest a bunch of people, throw them into whatever private prisons, profit, or represent Qatar, have Qatar send, the president a $400 million jet, find ways to profit, right? These kind of things. This is a statement from Representative Jamie Raskin. He says, "Trump must seek Congress consent to take this $300 million gift from Qatar." So you can rate the plane at being $300 million or $400 million, right? Take your pick. The Constitution is perfectly clear. No present of any kind, whatever, from a foreign state without congressional permission. A gift you use for 4 years and then deposit in your library is still a gift and a grift. That's coming from Jamie Raskin. Bernie Sanders says, "I don't know who needs to hear this, but no, Donald Trump cannot accept a $400 million flying palace from the royal family of Qatar. Not only is this farcically corrupt, it is blatantly unconstitutional. Congress must not allow this over-the-top kleptocracy to proceed." And what they're doing right now over at the White House, they're trying to cover up for the corruption, and they're trying to claim that they have some great deal made with the U.S. and China in Switzerland. They put a couple statements out there. This is on their website and also retweeted. The statement is basically, we're going to make an announcement tomorrow. That's basically what it is. And they're claiming that's some sort of deal. I want you to hear it, though, from their own words. And also what China is saying is basically, this is a statement from China. First, I'll tell you. Both sides have reached an agreement on establishing a China-U.S. economic trade consultation mechanism, right? So basically, we're going to keep talking more. But look how they're portraying it in the USA.
David Perdue. Congratulations to you, Ambassador.
Maria, hi. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. What are you expecting from these talks this weekend?
Well, first, President Trump is doing exactly what he told American voters he would do last year during the campaign. He's going to stand up for American workers. He's sending our A-team, Ambassador Greer and Secretary Bessent, to Switzerland to engage. I mean, but I want to remind.
So let's see what our supposed best people are saying about the meeting with China. This is Bessent. Let's watch.
We will be giving details tomorrow. But I can tell you that the talks were productive. We had the vice premier, two vice ministers who were integrally involved, Ambassador Jameson and myself. And I spoke to President Trump, as did Ambassador Jameson last night, and he is fully informed of what.
So they're claiming some sort of deal, yet it just seems like they just come out and say, well, we'll tell you the details tomorrow. Like I said, personally, I think they're just going to say, we've agreed to talk further. Let's see what Greer has to say, see if he has anything different.
And again, to the Chinese negotiators, Vice Premier Liu He, Vice Minister Li Qiangong, and Vice Minister Liao Min worked very diligently, and these are very tough negotiators. A couple of them I know from before and have had past interactions with them. And this was, as the Secretary pointed out, a very constructive 2 days. It's important to understand how quickly we were able to come to agreement, which reflects that perhaps the differences were not so large as maybe thought. That being said, there was a lot of groundwork that went into these.
So what is the agreement stats deal? Okay, so first is, and this is kind of a smoke and mirrors thing, Trump puts a bunch of tariffs on, right? And basically they could say, okay, we'll talk to you if you remove your tariffs. And then Trump will say, hey, look at the great deal that I got. Like, do you understand how crazy it is? Like, I'm going to inflict a wound or whatever. And then the person's like, why did you do that? And they say, okay, I'll take it off. And, hey, look at the deal I got. And it just goes back to where it was before. But I mean, I sound, it's like, to me, it sounds like they were just going to keep talking. They further explain some more. We'll listen a little more here.
And I would just conclude with saying it was done in the spirit of cooperation, shared interest, mutual respect, and we look forward to sharing the details with you tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
They just come out and said, hey, we talked to them. They answered the phone, and we'll tell you more tomorrow, but I assure you it's all going to be good, and then I'm going to run away. And then they run away. To be fair to them, though, is I mean, maybe they have to get their lies straight. I don't know. We'll find out what it ends up being. The Secret Service then came out. You guys can see this here and guard the door, which was kind of interesting. And then China's statement just said we're making a mechanism to further talks. So then on top of the Bessent stuff, they put Lutnick on the air to give an interview talking about the tariffs and who pays them. Have a look at this.
10% across the board tariff on goods imported to the U.S. from the U.K. As you know, the cost of tariffs are paid by American consumers. We've been talking about this. So should Americans be prepared?
I disagree with that, you know.
Well, okay. But most economists, I would say, disagree with you on that. And we have seen it being passed off time and time again to the American consumer. But regardless of that, just...
And I this stuff's so frustrating to me where the Trump people act like that you're not going to pay the tax. You're gonna end up paying it. To be fair to Lutnick, and just want to make it clear, the importing company's on the hook for the tax, and they ultimately generally pass it on to you, the consumer. Oftentimes, if you order something from another country, it'll literally say on the website, import tax, and you'll end up paying it. But again, the Trump people, they try to mislead on this and say, oh, no, the foreign country is going to pay it, which is just frankly a lie. They do this quite a bit, though, but I just wanted you to see it for yourself, how they talk about this. Let's watch some more.
On the policy, this is what I want to ask you about. Is the 10% tariff that we're seeing in the framework for the UK going to be in place for the foreseeable future?
So we do expect a 10% baseline tariff to be in place for the foreseeable future. But don't buy the silly arguments that the U.S. consumer pays. Businesses, their job is to try to sell to the American consumer. And domestically produced products are not going to have that tariff. So the foreigners are going to finally have to compete. They're going to have to compete. What happens is the businesses and the countries primarily eat the tariff.
Yeah,
Look,
see,
we have 25%.
they try to portray it as like, oh yeah, China's gonna pay the tariff, stuff like that. I mean, guys, you're gonna end up paying the tax, and this is why it's really misleading. I think a lot of MAGA people are gonna be upset when they learn the truth, when they order whatever from Shine or Alibaba or Amazon, and they realize, yes, you're paying the tariff. I don't know what to say here. Other than that, again, just want to make it clear in case it's unclear. The importing company pays the tax. They're on the hook for it, and oftentimes they'll pass it on to you, the consumer. I don't think it's that difficult to understand, but evidently they're going to try to keep misportraying it and saying that China is going to pay. This is, if you're just kind of curious, this was the delegation from China that was in Switzerland. We had a picture of them. And again, I think they're just going to say, we've agreed to talk more, but we'll see what they end up saying tomorrow. This is our ambassador to China. If you don't know, David Perdue, so he just gave an interview. I showed him in the beginning. If you don't know, he was accused of insider trading, along with Kelly Loeffler, who's also part of the Trump administration, and also accused of insider trading. Basically, they went to like a congressional meeting on the pandemic, and he ended up buying a bunch of stocks related to that. And this is the headline here: Senator David Perdue, again our China ambassador, bought stock in a company that produces protective medical equipment the same day senators received a classified briefing on the coronavirus. On top of that, he does have experience in Asia. He was also I think he was like the CEO of the Dollar General. And when he was there was a ton of lawsuits against the company regarding, you can see here, sued for 2,500 times for sex, race, and wage practices. So I don't have a positive impression of him or how he ran his ship. This is him misportraying history. And I have to show you this stuff because if you're curious like how they mislead people, this is how they do it. So basically, he's going to claim the way they do it is they show pictures of President Trump and President Xi from China, talking. He's going to be talking about how the Marshall Plan helped several countries, but it didn't help China actually. And that's why this is completely misleading. So I'll show you what I mean and just watch.
When the president said this week, when he did a proclamation on VE Day, which was yesterday, he said, look, we helped rebuild the world through the Marshall Plan. We set up trade agreements that benefited those people as they developed their countries. But we're in a new day now. We need to.
So again, that's Fox News purposely misleading there. They're showing images of, Asia and China, but yet they're talking about Europe and how awesome USA was helping with the Marshall Plan. So it's really misleading there. And then Perdue's going to talk about, his plan for America, et cetera, as the ambassador to China. Have a listen.
So there's a refocus on American manufacturing. In fact, President Trump calls it a manufacturing renaissance in this country, and I'm very hopeful to see that happen. I'm optimistic that it will. This is a major part of his plan for the next 3 years.
So all this stuff, you put it together, right? They lie about whether or not they're getting some sort of deal from China when it sounds like to me they're just going to announce tomorrow they're going to continue talks. They lie about who pays the tariffs, right? You're going to end up paying the tax on that. And then they lie about, bringing back all these jobs to the USA, et cetera. But you just have to point this stuff out so it's clear and don't get misled. And that's why I can tell when, essentially the MAGA, fanboys and fangirls and the Trumpers come and say, oh, Chris, you're so dumb. It's like, I can see where they're getting their information because they'll kind of parrot and repeat this stuff on Fox News. And I'm literally just showing you guys the truth in this stuff. So hopefully this is helpful. I do appreciate your time, and I'll catch you on the next video.